All right, this is the Node.js tracing workgroup meeting on November 19th, 2015. We have some of the regulars here. And I guess what we'll do is I actually did go through kind of did a quick review yesterday and tried to get some agenda items up. So let's go through those just real quick. There was, by the time I got there, somebody had put in, I think this might have been Andreas, node under async wrap, an open question about error recovery.
Yes.
There's Torsten. Hey, Torsten. And then the other things I listed there were some issues that were opened up. So that's good. Having these issues opened up kind of gives us something to more concretely talk about. So and I think I just listed all of them, kind of whether they were like super relevant or not. But I figure we'll just go over those unless anybody has any other way they would like to proceed. And so, Andreas, did you say that async wrap question was for you?
Well, I put it in there, didn't you? Sure. So in the previous version of async wrap was called tracing. That was like some error handling facilities. And me and Trevor at some point discussed it in an issue regarding something else. But neither one of us really need that kind of error handling. So it's just an open question. Is this something we want to implement? And what should it involve?
Okay. I see that you actually listed an issue in the node repo itself. Is this something we should move maybe to the that async wrap issue that we have just in general, or is it already there?
It is in the overview, I believe. But I mean, the issue is very old, and my use cases for it is not very strong anymore. So I would rather prefer that somebody else, if they need this kind of error handling, open an issue.
All right. So that seems pretty kind of cut and dry. There are no needs for this at present.
The original purpose for it was to give us a path to remove domains, because they just suck. But we need a mechanism to replace it if we're going to remove domains, and I figured this would be a good place for it since it also handles that kind of asynchronous scenario. The problem was, since async wrap works at the lower level, there were places where it missed because domains works at the JavaScript abstraction level, right? And in the end, it just became a huge mess. One thing we had discussed was possibly just allowing some kind of just one step below an uncaught exception, where it's like uncaught exception for this async stack. And that would be pretty easy to implement, but it wouldn't give any recovery capabilities, just to let you know that something is happening.
All right. Well, we're going to end up getting to, in terms of the issues, there actually is a nice async wrap issue. With the little GitHub tasky things and whatnot. So let's, when we go through that, let's just make sure that we have whatever kind of relevant stuff we need in there. That's issue 29, async wrap issues -overview. All right. So moving on, under the open issues, I actually listed one that's under the Node Foundation slides. The slide deck for the Node Foundation has a list of all the or some of the working groups in kind of a brief description. So I had kind of put something up there. Stephen had provided kind of an alternate thing. So the current statement that we would have for this tracing work group is mission is to provide portable tools and hooks to access high-performance tracing capabilities in Node.js. So it's super generic, doesn't give you a whole lot of detail, but that's fine because everything else is just kind of a one-sentence thing. I'm going to go with that unless folks have any other issues with it, and so we can, if we got something real quick, bring it up now. Otherwise, that is in the Node.js Foundation slides repo. It's issue number 7. There's a link to it in the GitHub or in the Google Doc. And then I'll plan on, I guess, finalizing that PR and get it into the slides. All right, where are we at now? Okay, so now we're on the async wrap issues from Andreas, and that is all the rest of these are in the tracing work group, tracing-wg repo. This is issue 29. So like I said, Andreas has done a good job of creating some chunky bits here and some kind of concrete bits here. So I guess why don't you, maybe you can just give us a quick status of this, Andreas?
Sure. So I guess we are working on multiple fronts. So there's the general, like sometimes we miss the handle context. So we don't know where an asynchronous thing originated from. Then Trevor has actually implemented one of the events. It's called onDestructor. So you know when an async thing stops being active, like a TCP socket is closed. Yes. Is there anything more? Then I mean, there's still this open issue about whether or not the process.binding should be deprecated. So if that happens, then async wrap is not going to work. And also because of this onDestructor feature that was added and some other features like unique ID. So each async thing gets an ID. The documentation is also a bit out of date. But I think, like for me at least, the primary issues are this handle context that's missing. So, for instance, there's this promise issue, which was also discussed last time. I would like to hear if there's been any updates on that, and also native modules. How do they integrate with async wrap? Because right now that doesn't really work. I would also like to hear if there's some update on that.
Okay, so as far as the promise thing, I mean, there's just V8 hasn't given any response. I don't think they're much. If that's going to happen, we will have to contribute it, I believe. I don't see the V8 team having much interest to spend time doing that. As for the native module integration, Fudor has wanted to make his JS stream public, which would require async wrap being public, which in turn would solve that problem.
Trevor, do you have a link? You mentioned a V8 issue that you didn't get a response on. Can you link to that?
Oh, for the promise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can find it. I'll get it to you when I do.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the task list actually lists missing issue, parenthetically, for promises or microtasks. So maybe we can actually get that link put in there.
Oh, it does for that one?
Yeah, there's a bunch of links in that issue. There's a bunch of links back into Node.js. So if we find the V8 issue for that one that you're talking about, let's go ahead and just reference that. It's super useful to have these links in here, at least for me. So that's cool. And I'll just mention there is a link to, I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the Node issue 669 for the on-error that we had mentioned previously, so that's good. All right, so so it's good to this is actually, I kind of like the structure of how you've done this, and Andreas. It's a bunch of items and they're kind of chunked in a useful way. So at least gives us kind of a view of work that has to be done, and that perhaps people could pick off. So this is great. Anything else on this particular issue 29, before we move on? Right, so let's move on to 30. And that one is trace_event.h tracking issue. And this was created by Stephen. And the gist of here, as near as I can tell, is that let's get the trace event.h stuff in to Node. And so there's some discussion of how we should do that. And I guess Stephen or somebody else wants to provide some additional update on that. That would be good.
Not really any updates on my part. I mostly just put this together as a tracking issue. I might try and get onto doing something about this stuff myself at some point, but just haven't got to it yet.
Cool. Good enough. It's nice to have it at least tracked in here. So yeah, I guess if we can find somebody to actually take a whack at this, it would be cool. Since I suspect everybody kind of has a general idea of how this thing is going to work, but actually seeing code would be super useful, even if it's not complete, just to start to get a sense of it. So maybe if I have some free time, I might take a look. I think all the links we need are in here. Yeah, there's links to Chromium bits and stuff. So okay, cool.
I'll add a quick update on the V side on where trace event is. So there have been a lot of changes that have gone into the CL and for landing trace event into V8. There were some design changes that the V8 team wanted and other things that were needed. So lots of activity has happened to it, and there should be a lot of issues you might have seen on the V8 reviews mailing list for this. But yeah, it's being actively worked on. We hope to get this landed into V8 soonish.
Interesting. So, and those are updates since maybe we kind of more concretely talked about this 2 months ago or so?
Correct. So there have been lots of coding changes recently. But yeah, so we're working through the issues that we need to resolve. And when I say we, I mean Fadi and his team mostly, to get this landed into V8.
Great. There is a link to a Chromium code review. Okay. It was created 8 months ago. I'm looking at it right now. I'm sorry. It's in that issue 30 of the tracing work group, but it's a link into a Chromium code review. And it was opened 8 months ago, but modified last 8 hours ago. So I assume this may be kind of the most relevant thing for people to watch. Yeah, and I see Fahmy listed on there, as well as Ben in some of the discussion. Great. Okay, let's move on. Issue 31, tracing use cases and interface. So Luca had created this one and is not on. And I think I really wanted to get, I can't remember his full name, but Yunong or Yuong had I think, and I think he works at Netflix. Had specifically mentioned like wanting to have continuous tracing interface, and so I thought that would actually kind of be good to kind of outline as one of them, but I don't see that in here. So this, perhaps this this particular item could use a little bit of work in terms of structuring it, or just putting some chunkier bits in there to work on. So I think I may go through and add a bit of verbiage, maybe change the first comment to include a task list with some tasks. Unless anyone else has anything else for that one, we'll move on. I'm looking at issue 33, which is next on the list, and that's actually just a cross issue for the Node Foundation slide I already mentioned, so I already got that covered. And then the last one, this was a new one that was opened up. So this, I'm sorry, it's issue 34, LTTNG tracing improvements. So this doesn't have anything to do with the new tracing stuff coming into V8. And near as I can tell, this is more somebody who wants to improve the existing LTTNG trace points. And there's actually some discussion about why some of those trace points or probes, whatever you might call them, are the way they are. So this one isn't. This is sort of more of a. I see this as more of a current issue, and probably is the background here may be relevant for where we end up putting trace probes eventually into Node, and why we would put them in certain places, but we haven't quite gotten there. I guess maybe that's another issue that we could actually kind of open up and have some discussion about, is what sort of trace points, probes, whatever, do we actually want to put in Node? Because I don't know that we've really had that much of a discussion of that, but we might as well go ahead and start listing those, and we can get people at least thinking about them. All right, so that was it for the current open issues. I guess I'd love to continue to kind of work this way in terms of having the issues kind of drive the meeting, and have sort of an issue owner give us a quick update, and then have any kind of discussion we might want to have around those. So I guess I'll plan on doing that for the next meeting as well, unless folks have any other ideas. And of course, if folks do want to bring up something in particular that's not a particular issue or something, just go ahead and we'll list those in the agenda and get a discussion there as well. Let's see. So next meeting, I think December is going to be tight. If it's a month from now, it's well into U.S. Christmas season. I guess Christmas worldwide season. So I think we'll just go ahead and plan on a January meeting, and would probably shoot for mid-January. So that would be week of 11th through week of week of the 11th and week of the 18th. I'll probably just do a 2-week stretch again for the doodles. Does that sound good to everybody? Anybody have any other kind of general issues about the meetings or the work group or anything like that? Should we be doing more? Are we doing too much? Is this a waste of your time? Things we could be doing better? Quiet group. If you don't say anything, I'm going to be forced to give you a half an hour of your day back. Over a half an hour. All right. You have spoken. I'm going to let you all go. So thanks for everyone for making the call. Hopefully we'll get a little more activity in the actual sort of content we're going down. I'll do minutes and maybe I'll try to kind of outline where I think people are looking to contribute, places they could start poking around. And we'll see you all in January. I did just get a question from Jeff Lewis. So is that on the... Okay, so I think this may have been the person that joined the call briefly and then dropped off. But he just left a group chat on a Google Doc. I didn't know you could do that. He says, "Hi, what node work group do domains fall into?" Well, it's not tracing. May come up in API. Anybody else have any suggestions for this guy? I'm not sure there really is a work group for domains. Nope. All right. Okay. I'll try to direct the guy. Hopefully. So everyone have happy holidays, and we'll talk to you in January. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have fun.
Bye-bye.
See ya.